Welcome to Cardinals Cover 2 with Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki. Cardinals Cover 2 is brought to you by Arizona Cardinals Podcasts. Visit azcardinals.com/podcasts. From the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center, here's Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki.
Well, +3, -1. That, in a nutshell, is what happened here on day 2 of the 2019 NFL Draft. The Cardinals, in the words of General Manager Steve Keim, had a, quote, productive day, unquote, and that they did, adding 3 players and then subtracting quarterback Josh Rosen, which I believe, MJ, we all anticipated happening, whether it was going to be here on this Friday or some point this weekend. It did not seem to make a whole lot of sense to keep him on the roster, given the fact that this team drafted Kyler Murray with the first overall pick.
Yeah, and the thing was, and they've maintained this probably since they started having discussions and possibilities, is that they were not going to give him away. Now, clearly you draft Kyler Murray with the first overall pick, and he needs to get the first team reps. Brett Hundley will obviously, he's been in the same meeting, so I think it was imperative to make the move and don't let this linger. And the question we've been having since the combine, once this could be come to fruition, was, is he worth more in April or August? Well, they don't have to worry about that now. He goes to Miami. I wish him a lot of luck. I think he's handled everything. I don't really care about the social media, who he's following, unfollowing. In the building, he did everything they asked him to do. He was professional, and hopefully, this is a motivation for him. I don't know if he needs it. He obviously feels like he was worthy of a first-round pick last year, and at push comes to shove, they got the compensation that you would have thought based on the quarterbacks being drafted in the first round yesterday.
All right, let's talk about this trade. We'll get into the 3 draft picks here in a moment. Those 3 players, by the way: cornerback Byron Murphy, wide receiver Andy Isabella, and defensive lineman Zach Allen. But first things first, the trade of Josh Allen to the Miami Dolphins in exchange, Josh Rosen.
Excuse me.
And I'm like, all of a sudden I'm getting my quarterbacks and my defensive linemen all mixed up. Hey, it's a long day here on day 2.
Yeah, but we just drafted Murray.
I know. We're getting rid of him.
Technically,
Yeah,
Josh
exactly.
Allen is a quarterback.
Yeah,
he plays
that's
for the
true.
Buffalo
And
Bills.
he's also a linebacker as well for now the Jacksonville Jaguars.
That is correct.
So there's a lot of Allens. There's too many Allens.
Now the Zach Allen, he's willing to sell popcorn at the stadium. Hey, the more
True.
you can do.
Exactly. All right, so Josh Rosen.
Thank you.
Dealt to the Miami Dolphins in exchange for the Dolphins' second-round pick, which is number 62, plus the Cardinals acquire the Dolphins' 2020 fifth-round selection. So that is the compensation. But here is Steve Keim talking about here on this day 2, the day after Kyler Murray's acquisition, on why the Cardinals decided to deal Rosen.
Well, there were a number of things that we talked about yesterday, and quite frankly, they were the truth. We're very high on Josh Rosen, and certainly we're fine to keep him. But I think there were a number of things that went into it, and it's sort of a sliding scale when you look at the value of what you get for the player, as well as the number of players that you can get sort of in that area. And really what our goal all along is to get potentially 3 players, or say 4 players with the pick yesterday, in our top 50. And not only did we do that, we got 4 players in our top 35, which is probably about as good as I've seen in recent years for us. So it was really about the opportunity. Certainly all of us are big fans of Josh Rosen's, wish him well, and I think he's going to have a heck of a career in the NFL.
Why didn't he ultimately work out here?
I don't know that it wasn't that he didn't work out. I would say obviously he was put in a tough situation last year. But I think really when you come down to the bottom line is we had an opportunity to find a dynamic player that we think can be special.
And tough situation is not even coming close to explaining what Rosen had to deal with in his rookie season with the Arizona Cardinals. But again, he has been traded to the Miami Dolphins. The Cardinals get the Dolphins' second-round pick, number 62 this year, which turns out to be Andy Isabella, and the Dolphins' fifth-round selection in 2020. But a couple of other notes on Keim and what he was asked about the Rosen trade discussions. He said, quote, he never actively shopped Rosen. That's important to note. 2, he he noted that he did have discussions with teams going all the way back to the scouting combine. So the report that came out earlier today, or was late on Thursday, about no trade discussions until minutes before the Cardinals were on the clock in day one in the first round, in the words of Keim, inaccurate. So there was no formal offer or anything like that going back to the scouting combine, but Keim did have talks with teams about Rosen and his availability. It just never materialized, in which you got far down the road where, okay, how about this selection, or how about this player?
Yeah, well, we witnessed it, we lived it, and there was a lot of misinformation, inaccurate stuff out there. But I guess people, try to make a name for themselves, and you trust it, a source. And to me, you got to go get a second source if you want to confirm something. But we're always quick to report news, and we all want to be first. And it's on Twitter for 5 seconds, and then everyone else has a story. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that they made the decision on Murray. And listen, Josh did everything in his power. He was going to a gunfight last year with a knife. I mean, it was a downward spiral effect. The whole coordinator situation, the injuries, the lack of weapons, the hits he was taking. But I give him credit because he stood in there and he answered the questions after the game. And I don't know if this is a learning experience for him, but sometimes you need another opportunity. It's a fresh start, and I'm sure he's there to go to motivate it. He's motivated, and Ryan Fitzpatrick is starting quarterback now. They get off to a slow start. Maybe you throw Josh in, and hopefully he can avoid them drafting a quarterback next year, because Miami's projected to go maybe 3-13, 4-12. Now, Brian Flores did not take that job, the tank. So it's going to be interesting. They'll be competitive. Maybe they don't have the most talent on the roster, but if he can get in a chance to play, maybe that will allow them to go a different direction in 2020.
And I'll echo your thoughts about Rosen on how he handled himself throughout 2018, including after the season ended, a stand-up guy in that locker room. I can't say a bad word about him. I'm not sure where all of this negativity is coming from as both a person and a player, but as far as my personal dealings, our personal dealings with Josh Rosen, he could not have been more accommodating, nicer, and of course saying all the right words. And then after the season, with all the Kyler Murray discussion and speculation, he did everything right. It's just unfortunate it didn't work out, but a fresh start for Josh Rosen. And now here with the Arizona Cardinals, it's time to move on with Kyler Murray. Now, here, day two, as far as the second and third rounds for the Cardinals, they acquired 3 players, selecting Byron Murphy with the 33rd overall pick. That was number 1 in the second round. They drafted wide receiver Isabella with the 62nd overall pick. That was also a second round selection. And in the third round, first pick overall, 65th. First pick of the third round, 65th overall, defensive end Zach Allen. For all 3 of those players, we'll break them down individually, but first let's hear from Steve Keim on those 3.
Byron Murphy from the University of Washington, a guy that we had rated extremely high. Has everything you look for in a corner, in our opinion: feet, movement skills, tremendous ball skills for a corner, a guy that gets his hand on a lot of balls, has been coached well by a friend of mine, Jimmy Lake, up there at University of Washington. Local kid, so we've had a chance to spend a lot of time with him. Love the passion, love the intensity, the fact that he was teammates in the past with 2 guys that were very high on, in Christian Kirk and Buda Baker. Certainly went a long way, and he sort of fits that mold. Also, adding to that list today is Andy Isabella, guy that many across the country probably don't know a lot about. But when you look up the stat log and see what he's done against top-tier competition, teams like Georgia, South Florida, a number of different teams that we saw him play against, coupled by the fact that we have 2 members in our building that were with him at the University of Massachusetts, so there's intimate knowledge. Ryan Gold and Spencer Whipple have both been with him, and could really, really vouch for what he was made up of internally and externally. So again, we're extremely excited about him. He brings a different skill set that we don't currently have, which is the foot speed and explosiveness to take the top off. He ran 4.3 at the combine, and again, when you watch him on tape, he has been productive against everybody. Went down to the Senior Bowl and had a lot of success. So again, he's a guy that we think can come in and contribute right away. And then we finished up with Zach Allen, who is a guy that was one of the players that I may have been most fond of during the evaluation process. I talked about a quarterback yesterday that did things that I haven't seen in my time scouting. I'm not sure I've seen a defensive lineman have 100 tackles in a season. This guy plays like his hair's on fire. He's relentless. He does different things from a pass rush standpoint that a lot of defensive ends and 5 techniques don't do. So he's a guy that not only brings the character that we're looking for, but he brings the toughness and intensity that we're looking for. So again, 3 members of our team that we're extremely excited to add.
And 4 overall, if you go back to the Kyler Murray draft, first overall, according to Keim, 4 players that they had ranked in their top 35. Forget the top 120 board. How about their top 35? And Allen is the 65th overall selection, and if the Cardinals had him amongst their top 35, that's a pretty good haul for 2 days.
That tells me that they have 7 draft picks tomorrow, starting with the first pick in the 4th round. That will start about 9 a.m. That tells me that board's going to have some really good players and good depth at certain positions. I know people are wondering about the offensive line. Keep in mind, they went out and signed 2 unrestricted free agents, J.R. Sweezy, 2-year deal, Max Garcia coming off an ACL injury. We'll see about his availability as the offseason progresses. And they made a trade for Marcus Gilbert. They still have A.Q. Shipley on the roster, Kobe Gossett. I always screwed up. Gossett, sorry. And, Corey Cunningham. So I know people are, hey, you got to protect the quarterback. But on paper, now, they're always going to preach competition, but on paper, they do have their starters. And if you want to build a case, we kind of have an idea. Now, this needs to play out. The 8 guys that will dress on game day. So, again, we talked about Pugh needs to stay healthy. Sweezy's on a 2-year deal. Gilbert. I would think at some point they would draft an offensive line. It could be the interior or it could be the tackle position.
All right, let's go over these 3 day 2 draft picks individually, and let's start with the cornerback out of Washington, Byron Murphy, the local kid who went to high school at Saguaro, so he joins fellow Saguaro SaberCats DJ Foster and Christian Kirk. But as far as Murphy, the first pick of the 2nd round, remember 33 overall, and this is a guy that we talked about earlier in the day here on Cards Covered 2 as far as when you look at the cornerback position. This was someone the Cardinals had very high. They like his coverage skills. He's very physical, and according to Kingsbury, can play either inside or outside. But I think initially, because of Patrick Peterson and Robert Alford, you'll look for him to play inside and then work his way outside as he gets more experience.
Yeah, and Steve mentioned Jimmy Lake, again, the defensive backs coach up there, and we've talked about it. I mean, he does only recruits guys that he thinks is going to get a chance to play at the next level. The Cardinals have benefited, obviously, from Budda Baker and now Murphy, and, they signed Tremaine Brock. Obviously, he can play on the outside, so we'll see what happens in the next couple of years. But, you like to have a veteran guy there, but he's very athletic. He probably will get an opportunity to play on special teams. And I think he's going to compete at the slots position. So it'll be interesting to see, play time. And anytime you draft a guy early in the round like that, obviously the first overall pick in the 2nd round, he's going to play on special teams too. So that's part of the equation here. But, I like the fact that they got a guy from Washington where he's been coached very well. And obviously he has a relationship with the Budda Baker.
Yes, and that's important because Baker was one of the first on social media to welcome Murphy to the Cardinals because of their already connection, and in the course, the connection, as I mentioned, to Kirk and Foster. And Murphy on a conference call earlier here on Friday mentioned that he has met Patrick Peterson. So here is a young kid who was not walking into a locker room with eyes wide open as far as, I don't know anyone. Those eyes still will be wide open, but he'll have a more comfortable level when he walks in compared to maybe someone else.
Oh, it's always good to see familiar faces, and he's a local guy, and the fact is they had a local tryout where anybody that grew up in high school in here, you can bring them over here for workouts. Included Ryan Finley, the quarterback from NC State. He transferred from Boise State. Yeah, I mean, it's nice, and the fact that these guys are probably like, I can't get rid of each other, but it's pretty impressive that Saguaro is putting these guys in the NFL, and I know they've been very successful with their coach. But, I'm excited to see them. Going into the draft, you would have thought receiver and maybe linebacker and D-line or possibly safety. But on paper, I mean, the fact that he was ranked 15 on their board, I mean, here you're picking 33. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, they talk about not reaching. Well, that one kind of fell right into their lap. But now you mentioned it, 3 Saguaro SaberCats. Jason Mons does a great job at Scottsdale Saguaro High School, and 6 total local kids on this roster right now as far as who played high school football in the state of Arizona. The 3 at Saguaro, Terrell Suggs out of Hamilton, Brett Hundley, Chandler, and then Brooks Reed from Sabino down in Tucson. And I don't know how that compares with any other NFL team, but you'd be hard-pressed to find that much local talent on one NFL team.
See, your high school background announcing these games is paying off right now.
I was telling someone earlier, I'm getting older by each draft because these are all kids that I covered in high school, and now they're beyond high school, beyond college, and now they're at the pro level.
Yeah, I mean, life is fast.
It comes quick.
It comes quick. That's a great way of describing it.
Do they call you Uncle Craig?
I remember
I hope
you.
It's not Grandpa.
Yeah.
I don't need
I was
that.
being kind. Uncle.
Yeah,
Thanks. I appreciate
I don't know.
that.
I don't see any gray yet.
No. Well, never mind.
Okay.
So that was the first pick of the second round. The second selection in the second round, number 62 overall, as a result of the trade of Rosen to the Miami Dolphins, and the Cardinals do go wide receiver, Andy Isabella out of UMass. Now, here's someone that, as Keim mentioned, you might not know too much about. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't know much about him as well until the Senior Bowl. And that senior week, he had a very good week of practice, and then the game itself, 7 catches for 74 yards and a touchdown. And that week, because I wrote this down because it really stood out to me, but the NFL Network's Daniel Jeremiah said about Isabella, quote, "The team that drafts him is going to love using him on fly sweeps and bubble screens. Just get the ball in his hands and watch him go," unquote. Isabella told reporters during the Senior Bowl week of practice that he's run a 4.26 hand-timed 40-yard dash during training sessions. Now, I believe officially he clocked in at a 4.3, a little bit higher than a 4.3, but bottom line is, in this offense that Kingsbury wants to run, you get him out in space, he catches the football, beats the defender. This kid is gone.
Yeah, very productive. And, you look at these slot guys and, maybe he's going to be our Cooper Kupp, who obviously the Rams missed last year. He kind of looks like Edelman in that uniform. He's very, he's built pretty good. He obviously can catch the ball in traffic, tight windows. You're seeing things that we're going to see from Kingsbury's offense, where you get him out in space and yards after catch, and the fact that he's got speed, that's something you can't teach. Good pick. We thought there were going to be a run on wide receivers in the second and third round, so I did ask Cliff, is he the perfect slot guy? And obviously they need to see him on the grass, but he said we're going to move him around. So he sometimes can be on the outside. With that kind of speed, you're talking about maybe taking the top off the defense if that nickel corner's on him, whether he draws the number 1 or 2 cornerback. So from that standpoint, I like the pick. I wonder where they had him ranked because, as you mentioned, all 4 guys were ranked in their top 35.
And there was also another question, I believe it was Kyle Odegaard of azcardinals.com that asked Kingsbury, because we always get focused on an outside receiver. That's the speed guy who needs to just run straight downfield to take the top off. But is that something that maybe is not quite needed, or you don't get pigeonholed in outside receiver, inside receiver? And Kingsbury, as he's done throughout his time now as Cardinals head coach, we're going to adapt to personnel. And I understand that. But he did say, to your point, that guys will be moving around. You're going to have to know every single wide receiver position, because I don't think you're just going to see Larry Fitzgerald on the outside or Christian Kirk on the outside. They can do it, but they're also going to have to know the inside position as well. And that's just going to make it harder for defenses to come up with a scheme against this offense.
Oh, there's no doubt. And that's what I'm intrigued by is just, the hurry up, or in this case, they're not going to huddle. Again, Cliff will be in Kyler's headset until the 15-second mark, so they'll be able to figure it out and then figure out where the Mike linebackers, maybe it's going to be the safety this year based on their offense. But, yeah, I mean, that was the whole idea of trying to get some more talent in here so you can kind of spread them out. I would like to see him move Larry around. I mean, I know Larry is really involved in the run game. He's become a really good blocker. He's willing to put his body on the line. Not going to put himself in jeopardy with a concussion or anything, but him coming down the line of scrimmage, just occupying a guy or holding him up. But that's the whole idea, and I think Isabella and Kirk, they're really going to benefit from Cliff Kingsbury.
As far as production for Isabella, 102 catches and almost 1,700 yards receiving for Isabella. 5'8", again, small school out of UMass, but he performed well against those contests against bigger schools, and the Cardinals had him ranked very, very high, and to get him with the 62nd overall pick. A good job for the Cardinals. All right, the final selection here on this day 2, the third-round pick, first pick of the third round, 65th overall, defensive end Zach Allen out of Boston College, a 4-year player and someone who was very productive for his 4 years. You heard Keim say 100 tackles. He finished his career with almost 200 tackles, 199 total, 40.5 tackles for loss, 16.5 sacks, 6.5 of those sacks last year. Maybe not known so much for rushing the quarterback despite those sack numbers, but what scouts like about him is his ability to set the edge, and he's good against the run, and we know what this team did or didn't do against the rush last season.
Yeah, sounds similar to Brooks Reed, a guy that's got a lot of energy, can set the edge.
Point.
He spent 4 years in college. Paul Pasqualoni, the former head coach at Syracuse, I want to say he was in Detroit recently, and then
he's still with the Lions.
Yeah, and so from that standpoint, but he's coached him in the past. The fact is, he's one of the better. I think Ron Marinelli and Paul Pasqualoni are probably one of the more about technique and hand placement and how do you attack your opponent. So the fact that he's learned from him, I think that will go a long way.
And Keim mentioned that Allen is able to move along that defensive line as well, maybe play a little inside, but it's going to take a rotation and there's going to be a learning curve. But that position flexibility amongst wide receivers and, of course, on that defensive line, some are better on the outside versus the inside, but at least you have that option if you need it.
Yeah, and when I look at Murphy and Isabella, I assume they're going to be on teams. Just because,
yes.
Again, Isabella's going to be in the rotation. Anytime you draft a guy there, he's usually active on game day. Murphy has played on teams in his career. He's got the size and length to get down the field, make a tackle, maybe force a turnover. So, as these guys may not get starting roles to begin with, they're going to be active on game day, and they're going to get a chance to play on special teams. And, injuries always occur, so you make sure you're ready when your number's called.
And as you mentioned during the conference call here on this Friday, Allen mentioned that he'd even sell popcorn. He'll do whatever it takes that the Cardinals ask him to do.
Hey, the more you can do.
Yeah, I'm guessing that won't be the case, but I'm glad that he's open to participate in anything. We could just, make him, Omo needs an assistant, and we can, he can cut tape. We can do all kinds of things. If he's that willing, we can find jobs for him.
I think we're all fortunate to live here, even though the summers can be hot, but, air conditioning. But it's always interesting to get guys on the conference call, or in this case, a press conference tomorrow for Murphy, and we had Murray today. Just the fact that they all like Arizona. I mean,
how can you not like it?
I know.
You walk outside
and the Cardinals have never had an issue signing free agents. But, I mean, here it is, and you can see Murray today. He was outside taking pictures and doing interviews, and he's like, it's beautiful here, blue skies. And so it's always nice because, you're moving your family out here. I mean, it's not like you're coming out here for 6 weeks. And some guys will be if they don't make the roster. But so I just think it's a selling point. I mean, cost of living, the schools we have, obviously everything can be a lot better. But at the same time, I know coaches that have coached here and moved on, and they keep their house here.
Oh, yeah, a ton of them.
Yeah, retirement.
Right, it's a great area, and, of course, as you mentioned, the weather can't beat that. Now, you look at these three draft picks, Murphy, Isabella, and Allen, and what Keim always likes to look for, yes, you can see it on film, but do they have a passion for the game? And according to Keim, yes, all three of these players love the game of football.
Yeah, I mean, that was the goal in mind, and we've tried to do that more and more, Mike, over the last several years. And again, as you go through the process, and we talk about where you learn your lessons, sometimes to maybe leave a less talented guy up there to take a guy who, on our character scale, where we do A, personal, and A, football character, that you have a double A. And regardless of ability, if you have a double A, you got a real chance. And those are the kind of players that we want to put in our locker room. Not that you can't take, chances from time to time, but there's no doubt that those guys bring a limited amount of risk to them.
Everyone can watch film and figure out if you're a good, great, or excellent player. But what do we say? What do you have between the ears? And what do you have underneath your chest? Because that is something you can't measure, but that is something that every general manager is trying to search for. Because, as Keim mentioned, yeah, you will maybe take a less talented player, because that less talented player, they're going to work their tail off and come to work every single day and maybe be more productive than someone who believes that they've got the talent that they can just show up and be successful.
Well, I mean, if you're a GM, you don't want your phone ringing after 11 p.m.
True.
I mean, you don't want to be checking your messages at 3 a.m. Obviously, security gets involved. But, to me, I wish people can experience it, and we do play some of the conference calls. So this is how it works. The team will call the player, then the team will make sure they make contact with him. And then at some point, they'll call the player. They'll talk to all three, Michael Bidwell, Kingsbury, and Keim, and then they'll punch him down here, or they'll put him on a hold, and they'll come down on a conference call. And so we get a chance to talk to him. Now, it's usually they're having a party, so it's loud. But just the excitement. And I mentioned to Keim, whether you're drafted in the first round or rounds 2 through 7, just based on the call and the excitement, their lives are about to change. I mean, it feels like some of these guys have won the lottery. Now, I know that if you're a 2nd to 7th round pick, you're working on that second contract. But all these guys are jacked up. They're excited to be here. And I think that goes a long way. And you got some leaders in that locker room where you can learn a lot just from watching. Just be a duck. Follow them around, Just watch them, follow them around, and see what they do. I always find rookies, they come in here and they see how these guys dress, how they act, how they watch film. Anyone can watch film. It's what are you watching to get you better on the field?
Well, that process that you just described, azcardinals.com takes you behind the scenes of Byron Murphy's call from general manager Steve Keim.
It's crazy. His last 2 teammates were both 2nd round picks. Think about it. Buddha 2nd, Christian 2nd. High school, college. It's pretty cool.
Great people too.
Hello?
Byron. Steve Keim.
How you doing?
Hey, man. How about the fact that our last 2 2nd-round picks in Arizona have both been your teammates?
That's crazy, yes, sir.
It's only fitting to make you the next, right?
Yes, sir.
You ready to stay home?
I can't wait.
Good
I
stuff.
can't wait.
Good, man. We're going to make this selection, so you're going to be the 33rd overall pick.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
And then, listen, I know you got a big crowd there. I'm going to let you talk to Coach Kingsbury and our owner, Michael Bidwell. And then after that, you'll have a chance to talk to our media relations. But I want you to be able to celebrate with your family. So congratulations, man. We expect big things from you. Here's Coach Kingsbury.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Byron.
How you doing?
Hey, congrats, man. I knew after that dinner you were a guy we wanted in our organization. And you know how good you are, man. We think you're the best corner in the draft, hands down, and we are fired up to have you. So time to go to work, man. Time to show everybody.
Same way. Yes, sir.
All right, big dog. I'm going to hand you over to the owner. Congratulations.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
Here he is.
Hey, Byron, Michael Bidwell here. Congratulations.
I appreciate it.
You got everybody there with you? Your whole family?
Yes, sir. Got my whole family with me.
Outstanding. Well, we're gonna put your name in a couple of minutes, and
Yes, sir.
in the meantime, you celebrate with your family and your friends and everybody that's over there. You got the party rolling tonight too?
Yes, sir.
Outstanding. All right, my man.
Yes, sir.
All right,
I
look forward to
appreciate
seeing
it.
you. All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. You too.
you can go ahead and hand in the card.
I just get chills watching that every single time because it's a big moment, and you said it. I think it's the perfect description. It is life-changing. Whenever it happens, first round, second, even all the way to the seventh round, because it gets you a foot in the door, and then it becomes up to you whether you stay in that door. But everyone wants to hear their name called in the NFL draft. And azcardinals.com does a great job of capturing that moment here that we're able to play for you on this special edition of Cards Cover 2. But the emotion that these players feel, and then to see the family and friends around them enjoy it because they've made the sacrifices. They've been in there each step of the way to make sure that you accomplish your goal.
Yeah, and the fact that, he had first-round grades on him, and, I'm sure he was disappointed, but I'm sure his agent had, reassurance that, we're going to get picked early. The fact that you're playing in your place you played high school football, it's remarkable. And his position coach at Washington, he's remarkable too. Yeah, and you could tell these are the people he grew up with. These are the people that dropped him off and picked him up, and maybe it was his grandmother or a friend was watching to make sure he got to practice every day. So yeah, you get to see the excitement, and it does give you chills because you're changing someone's life. Now it's up to them to carry that baton and move forward.
You want to see another one?
Oh, absolutely.
How about we go behind the scenes? Life-changing moment for Andy Isabella.
Isabella. Steve Keim, Cardinals.
How's it going, Steve?
Ready to be a Cardinal?
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely ready. Can't wait.
You gonna make us proud, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, man,
Absolutely.
we're picking right here at 62, and we're gonna select you. So, Whip's out here, Goldie's out here. Everybody loves you, man.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I can't wait.
All right,
Thank
man. Make us proud. Here's Coach.
I can't wait.
Coach is going to talk to you, and then Michael Bidwell, owner.
All right.
Okay, take care.
How about that?
I knew it. I knew you guys were going to come through.
Man. I know.
I can't wait, man. I can't wait.
You got a lot of people in this building who think you're a fantastic player, man. You're a great person. Come in here, work your ass off. The offense is going to be special, and we can't wait to get you here, man. This is a big deal.
I can't wait
it
to
all
get
worked
there,
out. You are an absolute stud, and you're going to make us a much better team, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All
Thank you. I
right,
can't
here's
wait.
Mr. Bidwell.
Andy, Michael Bidwell, how are you?
I'm great. Never been better.
Well, congrats. We're excited to have you be a Cardinal. We met, you may not remember, in the at Indy in the interview room, and couldn't be excited. Coach is fired up over here. So
I'm fired up. I can't wait.
Well, be with your family. Your name's going to pop up on the screen here in a few minutes. Congratulations.
All right, thank you.
Congratulations, Andy. Look forward to seeing you.
Thank you. I can't wait. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm trying to think who was more excited.
Yeah, I think Cliff
Andy
was.
Or Cliff.
Cliff was. Yeah, he's right. He's going to come in here and he's going to have to learn. It's not UMass. Obviously he's put up big numbers so he could be productive. But the fact is, he's going to be part of this offense. When we talk about air raid and RPOs, he's going to be a big part of it. And Cliff realized that just based on his reaction, and they met him at the combine. They showed that in the flight plan, so they weren't hiding anything. And the fact is, he's an Arizona Cardinal now, and I think he's going to be a fan favorite. It's just because, the size, plays in the slot, probably I don't say underachieved, but maybe I don't know how many scholarships he got to end up at UMass. You don't know the road there, but I think he's going to become a fan favorite. I really do. Just the passion and the energy, and when he gets that ball in his hands, he has the ability to take it the distance.
And we say this all the time. If you're not at a Power 5 school, a well-known school, if you are productive, the NFL will find you.
Everything's on film. The fact that he went to the Senior Bowl, to me, one thing we learned when we got to the Combine is how many times teams go back to the Senior Bowl tape. Now, we had 16 juniors get drafted yesterday in the first round, so that tells you had a lot of seniors. But Mike Mayock and John Gruden, who were part of the coaching staff, they can't. I mean, Mayock said I went back to the tape, and what the tape is it's one-on-one drills. They're in full pads. Obviously, the receivers and quarterbacks, they work on some of the plays in the route running. But you're literally, if you're a defensive tackle, defensive end, you're going against a guard or a left tackle, and everything is on film. The eye in the sky doesn't lie. So I think people kind of look at some of these different, all-star games, the East-West Shrine game, and then, we got the NFLPA game. Again, everything's on film, but I can't tell you, and I didn't know this until I went to the Combine, how many teams go back to that Senior Bowl, and every team gets a copy of it. What they do is they get there early in the week, and they leave on a Friday. The game's usually on a Saturday.
Yeah, any time you can get in front of a scout, whether it's in person or on tape, it can all be beneficial. And for Andy Isabella, all of that comes to fruition here in the 2019 NFL Draft, a second-round selection of the Arizona Cardinals. All right, let's move to day 3. The Cardinals will have the first pick in rounds 4, 5, and 6. They'll have a second selection in round 6 and 3 picks in round 7. 248, 249, and 254, which is Mr. Irrelevant. So 7 total picks. Cardinals, I'm guessing, will have every position on the board as far as best available. And yes, offensive line probably should be selected. The Cardinals could always use some extra depth. But with regards to going into day 3, here is Keim on his thoughts on where their board shakes out.
The one thing about this draft again that I'm excited about is we can sit and somebody, if you're a fan or you're the casual observer, at 33, you should have took a receiver, you should have took, the bottom line is we're trusting our board. It's always good to take an offensive tackle or an offensive guard, whatever it may be, but if the value's not there, we're not going to just make knee-jerk reactions based on need. So would we love to add some more additional offensive linemen? Absolutely, if the value says it should be there. But again, at 33, Byron Murphy to me was a no-brainer. The guy's a fantastic player, and I think he'll be able to contribute this year. His ability to play inside and outside in particular. And then just again, Isabella has been a lot of fun to watch, somebody we were really excited about. And then again, Zach Allen, somebody we think can contribute right away.
You hear Keim say value, and that is something that fans just look at position groupings and numbers, but he's right. You're not going to take someone who you have ranked 50 because you need another offensive lineman, but if there's a running back that you have ranked at 40, it makes more sense to take that running back at 40 because of the talent and the value that he has, because as Keim says, your needs in November or your needs in April are not your needs in November.
Yeah, and they have 7 draft picks. I do think they'll address the line, whether it's interior. A lot of times those guys can play both center and guard, and we talked about the tackle position in the future. I would think they're a little bit thin at corner. They can also, bring in some undrafted free agents right now. You got Swearinger and Baker, and then you got Rudy Ford. Sounds like Zeke Turner's going to get a chance to play in the box a little bit more. Tight end, I know they got Charles Clay on a 1-year deal. You got Ricky Seals-Jones. They got a few more guys on the roster. Wouldn't be a surprise there. And I'm going to say this, and I don't know if they're going to take the 3 7-round picks and try to move up. I'm sure everyone in the media would like that. But, hey, Mr. Irrelevant, they're going to throw a parade for the guy, so maybe we can get a chance to enjoy that with him. Don't be surprised if they take a quarterback tomorrow.
All right.
And people are like, why are they taking a quarterback? Well, they got Hundley on the roster. They got Charles Kanoff on the roster. Maybe it's a practice squad. I'll just tell you that this quarterback has played in the air raid offense, so he kind of has some familiarity, and he played for a really good coach in the Pac-12.
It's skill set, and that is something that factors into this.
And there's a couple guys that I was told they like at the quarterback. Now, you're not going to force the pick.
No.
But if we get to the 6th and 7th round and say, and you don't want to say take a flyer, but maybe they took a flyer on Corey Cunningham last year. But they have the grade, they have the medical, they have the character, so they're not going to force it. And maybe you can bring these guys as an undrafted free agent. Normally, in the rookie minicamp, you like to have a couple quarterbacks. I think Knopf would be eligible, maybe not at the finite, but Murray obviously will be out there and better not touch the quarterback. So, but it wouldn't surprise me if we get to late in the draft if they possibly do that. And the other one is at North Dakota State. He actually played in the similar offense as Carson Wentz, another guy that played in the RPO and a little bit of the air raid offense.
So 4 rounds on Saturday. The fun begins at 9 a.m. And again, coverage can be seen on both ESPN and the NFL Network. It has been certainly a lot of fun through the first 2 days, and more of that is expected to come on Saturday, rounds 4, 5, and 6. Cardinals have selections numbers 103, 139, 174, 179, 248, 249, and then 254. They'll have the final pick of the 2019 NFL Draft. They'll begin the drafts and they'll close the draft with picks number 1 and 254 should they maintain number 254. And we'll get you started with a special edition of Cards Cover 2 at 8:30 Saturday morning. We will set the table for your day 3 coverage of the 2019 NFL Draft.
I know they supply food for us. You're not a coffee guy, so
no, I'm not.
You want to meet for breakfast here, or you're just going to show?
I'm just going to, roll out a cot or whatever and spend the night. Sleep fast.
Go home and get some sleep. Go see the family.
Yes, exactly. Sleep fast, everyone. Day 3 will be upon us in a matter of hours. Special thanks here on this day 2 coverage of the 2019 NFL Draft. Everyone behind the scenes, Tim Delaney, Jim Alejandro, Jeremy Schnell, Jackson Sipes. That's Mike Jurecki. I'm Craig Grialou. We'll talk to you on Saturday for 3rd day in a row of coverage of the 2019 NFL Draft here on Cards Cover 2.